Hi, I'm State Representative John Lesch. My fellow Minnesotans, the current 2009 legislative session is already historic in its grim outlook. The governor has proposed law enforcement cuts through local government aid reductions on top of an already regressive tax structure which gives the wealthiest in Minnesota a free ride. In the last 10 years, special tax breaks have been given to certain Minnesotans. If we had declined to spend those funds on tax breaks, our state budget would be billions of dollars in the black today. Clearly, this is a time to perform two actions. The first is to decide how we got into this mess and why we are always broke. The second question is, how do we clean up this mess and keep things in order for our shared, prosperous future? To do this, we must look at spending cuts and consider revenue options. With those come two additional questions. Most everyone agrees with the principle that we cannot avoid spending cuts to help solve this ballooning deficit. But that recognition oughtn't eschew an obligatory follow-up question about the revenue side of the ledger. We first must ask, do we look at raising revenue? Second, and perhaps more importantly, how do we raise that revenue? In answering the first question, we decide if we are prepared to invest in quality schools, passable roads, breathable air, and drinkable water. Minnesota was once at the top of these merit lists when compared against other states, including Mississippi, Alabama, and Texas. Now, potholes pock our roads, which are already laden with fracture-critical bridges. Healthcare costs are spiraling out of control, and jobs are evaporating. If we decide investment in our shared public resources is prudent, we must then decide perhaps the most important aspect of that: how do we raise that revenue? Special tax breaks passed during the boom years of the late 90s and 2001 session were geared toward Minnesota's highest paid executives who already pay less in taxes as a percentage of their income than the rest of us. In every deficit year since 2003, Tim Pawlenty and the Republican legislators have fought tooth and nail to protect those special tax breaks for their wealthiest campaign contributors, forcing the burden onto the rest of us through primarily higher property tax bills. It's time to make the tax system more fair and not to rely so heavily on property taxes. We already see this problem in the governor's proposals to cut local government aid. This proposal is code for increasing your property taxes and slashing local law enforcement. Many curative proposals will be made this session. Some of them will decriminalize laws which currently protect neighborhood vitality. Others will make health care even more expensive for the average worker. Still others will hamstring regulations which protect the health, safety, and retirement accounts of Minnesota consumers. Now is not the time to tuck tail and run from our oaths to secure the vitality of Minnesota. The federal stimulus package, while a substantial help, is still only one-time money and cannot serve to undo what has become a structural state deficit. The governor chose this time as an opportunity to cure a revenue shortfall with proposed tax cuts for corporations. It is up to us to offer a more genuine solution to solving the deficit long-term. Minnesota has a time-honored tradition of clean air and water, strong schools, good roads, and an unmatched work ethic. If we are to secure these blessings for us and for our posterity, we must invest in the structures which support those hallmarks of a great society, and in doing so we are obligated to promise that the burden of those investments will be commensurately shared by all Minnesotans. I look forward to your feedback this session.